안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동하기를 실천하고 있는 동타 마코입니다. 지금 집에만 있는 지 3일 차입니다. 가만히 있는 것도 힘들어요. 운동하겠습니다. 어저께 낮에 오전에 팔굽혀펴기랑 윗몸을 키링 하고 나서 턱걸이를 좀 했는데 스쿼트를 안 하게 되더라고요. 그래서 오늘은 영상 찍으면서 스쿼트 하려고 이거 갖고 왔습니다. 스쿼트도 하고 팔굽혀펴기, 그 다음에 하복근, 상복근, 스쿼트 총 4개 세트로 해서 하겠습니다. 팔굽혀펴기는 20개가 1세트, 스쿼트도 20개 1세트, 다 모든 거를 한 사이클을 20개씩 할게요. 일단 운동하겠습니다. 그리고 치킨이 오기로 해가지고 치킨 오기 전까지 운동할게요.
Good Wednesday morning to you.
Morning, John.
20 days ago, the president begging for votes from suburban women. Begging for votes. Recent polls, though, show he's losing in the suburbs. He's losing with women. Anything he can do to reverse the tide?
Well, first of all, I mean, probably the best approach is not to sound like an unsuccessful Sally Fields and sort of say, please love me, please like me. Look, the problem is what you just heard is him making the case that suburban women should vote for him because he saved their neighborhoods from rising crime that came from, wait for it, removing a desegregation policy. This isn't a racist dog whistle. This is a bullhorn. Now, many of the folks in the crowd won't know what he's actually talking about. But just to be clear, that's what he's talking about. That is old school racial demagoguery, and it's done from this position of weakness, like he's trying to, woo someone in a sexist category. I don't think it's going to be successful. Obviously, suburban people, women, and suburban voters are key. But I don't think telling them that you're going to remove desegregation policies and racist appeals is necessarily the best way to seal that deal.
Yeah, we have to talk about the senior vote. It's important every election, but especially in this one. Older voters in 2016 largely went for Trump. That appears to be shifting, though. Polls showing Trump trailing Biden, Trump hovering just under 40% with seniors. Yeah. Can President Trump afford to lose seniors but somehow still win this election?
Of course not, because senior citizens have been one of the most dependable Republican voting blocs, and it was key to his vote over win over Hillary Clinton. Look, in the latest CNN poll, Joe Biden has a 21-point edge among senior citizens, voters over 65, with Donald Trump. That is a real problem. But it doesn't help that he's campaigning as basically someone who's had COVID but still denies the best practices to contain it, because senior citizens are disproportionately affected and likely to be fatally ill from contracting COVID. And so I think that's a real uphill climb for him, because also senior citizens have perspective on this president, something that not all voters do. They know perhaps better than most that this is not normal.
Yeah, and you saw Joe Biden yesterday trying to say, look, all these seniors haven't been able to hug their grandkids for months now, and that's something that really hits home, I think. The president going to Iowa today.
Speaking of home.
To my home state of Iowa. And look, Barack Obama won the state twice. Trump won it last time. I'm going to be fascinated to see what the message is that can resonate there in the Midwest for Iowa voters.
Look, Iowa contains many of what are called pivot counties. These counties that voted twice for Obama, Biden, once for Donald Trump. Trump won it by almost 10 points last time around. Now, it's neck and neck in some polls. The Senate candidate, Senator Joni Ernst, is actually down to her Democratic candidate by a handful of points. One thing Trump has tried to do is pump in millions of billions of dollars back to farmers to alleviate the impact of the trade war. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to try to say, look, I stood up to China. I'll stand up for you. I've got the farmers' backs, and I've given you a lot of cash to boot. It still might not be enough, because that's a serious erosion from a state he won going away last time.
There's also this Iowa nice.
Iowa nice.
Iowa nice.
Talked about this.
Trump does not try to appear nice, and so maybe that'll work against him. Who knows?
Decency certainly is something that attracts voters, right? Bonus question, John. We're doing 4 for 4 today. Yeah, this is on the Supreme Court. Amy Coney Barrett refusing to say yesterday whether Roe versus Wade is a super precedent. She sort of argued against it, a decision that is so fundamental that it can't be overturned, right? She also refused to say much about the president's more controversial statements, like about a peaceful transition of power or voter intimidation. On this day 2 of questioning, what should we be looking for?
Look, I think doubling down on things like that. Look, it is significant that she said that Roe was not a super precedent, but frankly, it should not be surprising. Look, she is clearly smart. She is well qualified according to the American Bar Association. That matters. But she didn't decline to comment on the president's statements. She declined to say whether a president could suspend an election, whether voting intimidation was illegal. It is. And whether or not, there should be a commitment to a peaceful transfer of power. These are not tough questions. Also, they're already embedded in precedent, in existing law. So that deferral to them by treating them like something controversial that could come across her desk, I think hurts her credibility. Those are not tough questions. Those are obvious.
John Avlon, CNN senior political analyst, grab some coffee.
Thanks,
Yes,
John.
please.
Joining us right now. The Supreme Court has approved the Trump administration's emergency application to stop the census early. Litigation continues in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Civil rights groups fear that cutting off field operations now will cause an undercount and leave major funding gaps for critical services in areas that need it the most. The census was supposed to run through October 31st, but the White House has repeatedly tried to end it early, claiming it has to start the processing of data sooner to have a final count before Trump leaves office.
All right, to business now. The CEO of JP Morgan Chase urging Congress for more stimulus to help the economy avoid another recession, a so-called double dip recession. During a call with investors Tuesday, Jamie Dimon said a decent stimulus package would be helpful and that a double dip recession would cause considerable pain and suffering. Democrats and the White House still locked in a stalemate over stimulus. Both Senate Republicans and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have rejected a $1.8 trillion proposal made by the president last week. Despite economic concerns, though, JP Morgan slightly upgraded its economic forecast and opted not to ramp up its cushion for loan loss reserves. Analysts had expected the bank to set aside billions to cover defaults and bankruptcies. At the same time, the International Monetary Fund lowered its global growth forecast for 2021. The group now says a 5.2% increase in global growth next year. The IMF estimates the economy will shrink by 4.4% in 2020, a less severe contraction than it forecast in June. The IMF warned of a long, uneven recovery that will cause a rare increase in extreme poverty. We'll be right back.
Corruption. It is there, invisible behind a wall of silence.
Fight against corruption.
Corruption is not something to be tolerated.
It's not only African disease.
No country is immune.
Let's destroy this wall. In 2020, the 5th ACE Award encourages the heroes who are fighting against corruption. This helps our communities to save the resources that we need in order to address the real problems that affect us all. Shine a light on your anti-corruption hero. Nominate now.
We had this dream to fly a solar sail spacecraft.
The ocean and the atmosphere are continually connecting everything together.
Humans and technology must work together.
I'm Nikki Shields for CNN Saved by the Future, where the biggest names in science and tech spotlight innovative breakthroughs that could change our future world and even transport us beyond it.
Saved by the Future, Saturday on CNN in association with Hyundai.
이 세트까지 했습니다. 이제 세 번째 세트 할 거예요.
This
here, if you want to vote by mail, you can do so in 44 states to ensure that everyone has a say in who becomes president of all 50.
Congratulations to CNN for winning 8 News and Documentary Emmy Awards.
There seems to be some confusion. Maybe you can clear up. Where are the U.S. forces in Syria going?
This belongs to a Russian Special Forces unit.
They have got 250 kilos of gold.
And this border post behind us with a sense of panic about what comes next.
Infested, he says, that no human would want to live there. You know who did, Mr. President? I did.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
The coronavirus sidelining a famed cultural institution for the first time in its 178-year history. CNN has that and other pandemic developments from coast to coast.
I'm Stephanie Elam in Los Angeles. The United States Postal Service is saying that 18 of its employees have tested positive for the coronavirus at its Las Vegas processing center. The center employs about 800 people. They say they continue to push CDC protocols, including social distancing and washing their hands and also wearing masks. They're saying despite the number of positive tests that have come in since September 26th, it has had no impact on their operations.
I'm Bianca Ladriga in New York. After Michigan reported its highest 7-day average of COVID-19 cases since April, officials there are focusing on schools. The state's Department of Health and Human Services reported 26 new outbreaks Monday in both K-12 schools and colleges. The largest at Kalamazoo College included 21 reported cases. In total, more than 80 schools across the state are currently experiencing outbreaks. Governor Gretchen Whitmer reminding residents that, quote, if we drop our guard, we're going to see a community spread. And we're already seeing that a bit.
I'm Erica Hill in New York. For the first time in its 178-year history, the New York Philharmonic is canceling its entire season. That goes through June of 2021, noting mandatory city and state health guidelines that just make indoor concerts basically impossible. The president and CEO calling the health and financial challenges profound and said the cancellation itself is dreadful.
Yeah, just something, isn't it? All right, 15 new countries have been elected to the UN Human Rights Council, and several of them are accused human rights abusers, including China, Cuba, Pakistan, Russia, and Uzbekistan. The body of 47 countries is responsible for the promotion and protection of human rights around the globe. The Trump administration pulled the U.S. out in 2018, claiming an alleged bias against Israel and a pattern of corruption and repressive regimes in its ranks.
Veteran film and television actress Kunkata Farrell has died. Her career as a deadpan comedian and dramatic actress spanned 5 decades, starting off Broadway and on the sitcom Maude in the mid-1970s. She's probably best known for her role as the housekeeper on the TV series 2.5 Men.
Okay, listen to me, Zippy. If that's all it took to make a marriage, I have a husband for each one of my tattoos.
Farrell was a 3-time Emmy nominee, including twice for 2.5 Men. She died from complications following a heart attack. Kunkata Farrell was 77 years old.
Go away! Go away! Please go away! Holy
Yeah, that's right. This may have been the longest 6 minutes of Kyle Burgess's life while hiking on a trail in Utah. He came across a mother cougar and her cubs. He quickly pulled out his phone and started recording it, and then ended up being stalked by this angry female mountain lion.
Really, she was just doing what she was supposed to do. She was protecting her baby cubs. And so if I felt like if I did anything sooner, she probably could have felt like I was attacking her baby cubs. And I think it would have ended a lot differently.
Yeah, it certainly could have. Cougars are a protected species in Utah, and according to state wildlife officials, they're typically very shy.
Whoa, that one was not shy. All right, looking at markets around the world right now, let's take a look at what's happening in Asian shares. They closed mixed. Europe has opened slightly higher, and futures in the U.S. for this Wednesday morning are pointing higher ahead of earnings from Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, and Bank of America. Stocks fell Tuesday after Johnson & Johnson halted a COVID-19 vaccine trial, and Eli Lilly paused its antibody trial. The Dow down 157. The S&P 500, the Nasdaq also down slightly. Delta Airlines reported losing billions in the third quarter, warned investors it may take 2 years or more for air travel to recover. A contested election could harm Americans' faith in democracy and the country's perfect credit rating. Fitch Ratings said it will closely watch the November election for any departure from America's history of orderly transfers of power. A downgrade could affect investors' confidence and set off more uncertainty in financial markets. It could also make it more expensive for the U.S. to finance its mountains of debt. Thousands of Amazon workers are petitioning for paid time off for all the employees to vote. The petition calls for 8 hours of paid time off for employees to use until Election Day for voting-related activities, including registering and volunteering. More than 3,000 employees have signed this petition. Companies including Walmart, Starbucks, and Twitter have announced they would give workers some additional paid time off so they can vote. This has been a really interesting wave I've seen in corporate America, where they want people to have time and space to vote however they're going to vote for this 2020 election.
Yeah, a lot of folks have called for it to be a national holiday. It'll be an interesting argument moving forward, seeing what happens in 2020.
All right, that's it for us this Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. I'm Christine Romans.
And I'm Boris Sanchez in for Laura Jarrett. New Day is next.
People say focus on the bigger picture, but sometimes the biggest impact on the world comes from the smallest parts. Here at NGK, that's harnessing the surprising power of ceramics. Our business began with small yet tough ceramic insulators used on high power lines, helping electricity flow around the globe. This led to the creation of ceramic filters for cars that make the air cleaner, and a sub-nano filter that can separate CO2 from natural gas, composed mostly of methane. Always looking for new ceramic innovations, NGK has developed hyper-compact NAS batteries, which can store megawatt levels of power for sustainable renewable energy. We are also developing a battery that is so small and thin, it can fit inside almost anything. Enercera enables standalone wireless capabilities in the next generation of smart cards, and it will also enable a wide range of IoT devices to connect in the future. Day by day, we use our ceramic expertise to find new and surprising ways to make big changes in the world for a better future.
You're taking a flight. Your first in a while.
왜 치킨이 안 오죠?
At Qatar Airways,
그만해야 되는데.
to fly, taking so many people home safely, changing.
저 얼마나 했죠?
Perfection, making us the world's most
29도 안
expensive
했어.
airline for passenger safety. So, for your first flight into this new world, travel with an airline you can rely on. Ready? Let's go further together. Qatar Airways.
물 좀 먹을게요. 너무 힘들어.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels. Connected to your world.
More than 7 months into this pandemic, the U.S. is sliding backwards.
A resurgence of cases historically leads to an increase in hospitalizations, then ultimately an increase in deaths.
This is going to be a horrible winter.
With exactly 3 weeks to go until Election Day, Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett in the hot seat.
Are you able to commit to recuse yourself for disputes arise out of the 2020 presidential election?
I can't offer a legal conclusion right now about the outcome of the decision I would reach.
This is New Day with Alison Camerata and John Berman.
We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and all around the world. This is New Day. It is Wednesday, October 14th, 6 o'clock here in New York. And the national map of coronavirus cases looks different this morning. For the first time since early April, not a single state in the U.S. is in green, meaning no state is seeing a decline in cases. 36 states this morning are seeing an increase in coronavirus cases. 52,000 new cases were reported in the U.S. yesterday. Wisconsin is particularly bad. It's setting new records for cases, deaths, and hospitalizations. The situation is so bad that that state has opened a field hospital to handle the crush. So, how is President Trump responding to the crisis? By dancing, I suppose.
팔굽혀펴기 20개만 하고
I think that fits the definition.
오늘 그만하겠습니다.
Okay.
트럼프가 이렇게
President
춤을
again
추고
spoke to a packed crowd in Pennsylvania. This was last night. Supporters behind him were seen wearing masks, but most of the crowd were not. Joe Biden spent the day in Florida. He's appealing to seniors who have been hardest hit by the pandemic.
All right, there is major new reporting this morning on the White House attitude toward the virus, and you can hear it from the president's own words. They want at least some people to catch it. Now, that might sound alarming, but it's not a stretch. They want some people to get it. But the New York Times and Washington Post report that unnamed White House officials are explicitly embracing herd immunity, explicitly supporting a document from a relatively small number of scientists that says, quote, allow those who are at minimal risk of death to live their lives normally,
저녁
to
먹고
build
또
up
운동할게요.
immunity to the
턱걸이
virus
해야겠다.
through natural infection, while better protecting those who are at the highest risk. Sanjay and other doctors will tell you